We have to be better. God, we got to be better. I'm sure you and I are both feeling the same way right now, like over the last few days, watching everything happen and watching a man get murdered on video is not right. But we're back in the same position. We see this over and over again over the years. 1991, Rodney King, 29 years ago. And we're still in the same position as we are now. But you know what? The future doesn't look bright because there's two paths. One path is that it stays exactly the same, and we're just going to think that this part will just be another news cycle and will be replaced by something else. That's my fear. And I realize that I'm complicit to that. Because the other's future could be that something changes. Even to the smallest degree, something changes and we start to move in a direction where the world starts to shift, where humanity starts to think differently. And the reason why I'm complicit to that is because I realize that I'm part of the problem. Because typically I wouldn't talk about things like this because it's uncomfortable. It's much easier and way more comfortable to not say anything and just keep it to myself and maybe just keep the conversation within my own family. And just hope and pray that someone else will take care of the problem and this will move on. Yes, of course, we say like, man, this is terrible what's happening around the world. It saddens me. But we don't say anything to anybody else. We watch, but we don't do anything because it doesn't concern us. The reality is that this is freaking uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to watch. And for some reason, this time it feels different. It feels different to me because I realized I had to take some self-reflection and going, what role did I have in playing towards this situation? What things that I haven't said or spoken up with about or even done in my own life that has led up to this point? Because the reality is number one, when I started thinking about this, I started really getting uncomfortable because what the reality is number one is this: I am freaking guilty as hell. I'm guilty for generalizing to marginalize. I'm guilty because I've judged others based on their sex, based on their race, based on their color of their skin, based on their religion, the way they think, their philosophies, the way they move, the way they walk and behave. I've judged. And I know it's wrong. But I'm sure you and I are very similar because I'm sure you've done the same. But that's the thing. I finally see it. I'm trying to get better at it. I'm trying to be better to not marginalize. I'm not trying to generalize. But it's freaking hard because of the training of society and how we're trained to see things. But doesn't make it right. And I get it. We need to do better. I need to be better. That's something that I really saw through this in this moment of time to realize going, I need to have better conversation with myself to be able to see things a little differently, to ask questions, to see it from a different perspective. I thought I did a pretty good job. But obviously I still have a lot to learn. Because when these things happened, I didn't know what to say. I still don't. I don't even know what I'm saying right now makes any sense. But doesn't mean I shouldn't say something. This conversation is really for myself. For the clarity of my mind to go, this is a moment in time for you to make a decision to change and to be better. To be better in our thinking, to be better about judgment, to have more tolerance, and to be less judgmental when just because someone thinks differently. To be less judgmental just because someone has a different philosophy or a different viewpoint on life. And to accept. This goes beyond race. Because it starts with the smallest things. Those small things lead up to big things. Any hatred that we have in the small things lead up to the bigger things. And that's what I'm trying to be better, because I know that I need to be better so that my kids are better. So they learn to be better people. Because if they can be better people, then they have a better influence on their kids and their friends. But by not speaking up, I'm complicit in this. And this is why I wanted to shoot this video. I wanted to shoot this video really for myself. But I wanted to shoot this video because I want you to join me to carry on the message, because I think it's a lot easier for all of us not to say anything. But what's reality is what's important is to carry on this conversation so that this doesn't go past another news cycle and we could be forgotten. And it will take another life for us to kind of have this conversation again. What I think will happen is that, what I hope to happen is that this conversation continues to happen so that our kids understand what's happening. Our kids understand why it's important for them to think differently than how we've been taught to think. I think it's important for us to carry on this conversation so that we all start to think differently and to evaluate our own thinking. Not just be emotionally reacting, but how do we respond? React is one thing. How we respond to the situation is what's going to change or create change to have better tolerance, to have less judgment, to be able to have better conversation, to have listening. Doesn't mean we all have to agree with each other, but to be able to have some conversations around things so we can actually talk and communicate and to lead each other towards areas that we can actually find unity rather than create greater separation. We have a chance in this moment to make a difference. We have a chance to better our mind. We have a chance to get better. But it takes us willingly to continue this conversation with each other, with our friends, or through our dining tables, through our conversation with our friends, and through our community. That's where it begins. But the conversation needs to start with here. I know I can be better. I hope you can join me to be better too.